There are dozens of theme parks throughout the US, big and small, and unsurprisingly, a lot of them are built around major cities to maximize the amount of people in the area. I get a lot of comments being like, Coastoons, if I live in Georgia, where should I go? Coastoons, if I live in Idaho, where should I go? Coastoons, if I live in freaking North Dakota, where do I go? Hold up, wait a minute, run that back real quick. North Dakota? Originally, I was going to do a video about the best theme park for every state, but there are just too many irrelevant states. Alright, let's try that again. Originally, I was going to do a video about the best theme park for every state, but there are just too many states that don't have a major theme park serving them, and I'm really not about to send people to like a friggin' pizzeria with bumper cars and call that a theme park. So instead, I decided I would take the top 25 largest cities in the US and tell you what the best theme park is that's built close to that city. That's enough blasing, you get the idea. Let's get right into it. Portland, Oregon. Starting off strong with literally nothing. The city is kind of in the middle of nowhere. The criteria for this video is going to be driving distance, and I guess Silverwood is technically driving distance from the city, but if someone's in the area for vacation or business or something, I don't know why you would drive 6 hours to friggin' Silverwood of all places. I mean, Silverwood's not a bad park, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely not worth driving for literally a quarter of a day to get to it. If you want to go to a different park, then the next closest one is Six Flags Discovery Kingdom, which is a 9-hour drive all the way down to Cali. So sorry for you Portland, Oregoners, there is no theme park for you. Nashville, Tennessee. Now, while your mind might immediately snap to Dollywood, there is a closer park that's also really good, Kentucky Kingdom. The thing about Dollywood is it's more of a destination park. They have a whole resort, it's built up in the mountains, and there are countless shows and other attractions than just roller coasters. This is definitely the better park to go to for families because of the landscaping, food, and theming, and you know, it's just a nicer park in general. It's more in line with a thrilling Disney park than a Six Flags park, but it is a 3.5-hour drive, which is quite lengthy. So if you want something that's about an hour closer, there is Kentucky Kingdom. It's a smaller park, but it packs in just as much of a punch. The top two of this park of Storm Chaser and Lightning Run are two of the most critically acclaimed coasters in the US, and the rest of the park looks very solid. Obviously, it doesn't hold a candle to Dollywood in theming and atmosphere, but if you just want pure thrills, you're honestly probably better off going here with the shorter drive. Dollywood does have Lightning Rod though, so you know that is Lightning Rod. Detroit, Michigan. Cedar Point. Cedar frickin' Point. This is the best coaster park in the US, and you're only a 2-hour drive away. I know 2 hours sounds a lot, but trust me, it's definitely worth it. It has the greatest coaster ever built with steel vengeance, the world's first coaster above 200, 300, and 400 feet, and so many other great rides like Maverick, Gatekeeper, and Valraven. Just trust me on this one. If you're in Detroit, make the 2-hour drive down to Ohio. Also, if you want to know more about this park, I have a full review on it because it is genuinely like one of the best parks. Probably it is the best park I've ever been to. It's definitely my favorite. If you go to Cedar Point, I promise you, you will not regret it. Unless you hate roller coasters, but you know, I can't really help you with that. El Paso, Texas. This is another one where there sadly isn't a whole lot. If you want to drive 8 hours up to Six Flags Fiesta, Texas, or SeaWorld San Antonio, be my guest, but that's kind of stupid, so we're going to go on to the next city. Boston, Massachusetts. Six Flags New England is a park with a very strong 1-2 punch and a whole lot of mediocrity. However, that 1-2 punch is considered the strongest 1-2 punch in the US, so the park is definitely worth a visit. There are other coasters like Riddler's Revenge, Batman the Dark Knight, and Flashback, but none come anywhere close to Superman the Ride or Wicked Cyclone. Superman the Ride is acclaimed as one of, if not the best traditional hypercoasters in the world, and Wicked Cyclone is considered some of RMC's finest work. Both look incredible, and either one would be worth the trip from Boston alone, and considering that this is less than 2-hour drive, you definitely should. Washington, D.C. Now there are two real options here. First, you have King's Dominion, which is very similar to the park that we just talked about, Six Flags New England. It has two of the best coasters in the US, but a whole lot of meh after that. It's still worth a visit because those top two are two like incredible looking coasters. That's an hour and a half away, but if you want to drive another hour and a half, so 3 hours, I'm aware this is a bit lengthy, there is Busch Gardens Williamsburg, which is considered one of the best parks in the world. It looks to have a rock-solid lineup of coasters, and has been voted the prettiest amusement park time and time again. It's got a Dollywood feel where there's great coasters, but there's also shows and attractions and food, and it's just a nice park to be in. There's also Six Flags America, only 45 minutes away, but this park is hot garbage, so just don't go. Denver, Colorado. Elish Gardens is built right in the middle of the city, and that is like pretty much the whole point of this park. This park looks pretty awful, but you really don't have any options out here in Colorado. Seattle, Washington. God damn, I just realized how many desolate cities there are in the US. This is another one where there's not really anything. Yet again, we have Silverwood, but it's a 5-hour drive again, and it's just not worth a 5-hour drive. Moving on, Indianapolis, Indiana. From a city with nothing to one with quite a few options, both Kentucky Kingdom and Indiana Beach are about an hour and 45 minutes away. I talked about Kentucky Kingdom before, but Indiana Beach is a whole nother ball game. This is a very quirky park with a unique lineup of coasters that all have a lot of charm. You have Steelhog, one of only a handful of El Loco coasters out there that are basically Wild Mouse, but out of control and with inversions. You have Hoosier Hurricane, that's like a wooden coaster built right along the water. And then of course there's Lost Coaster of Superstition Mountain, which I don't even know what the fuck I'm looking at here. Overall, this park has a lot of character and a lot of charm, and with Chimera coming who knows when, this park is definitely creeping up my bucket list. But if you don't mind driving another hour, yes, I'm aware this is a pretty long drive at this point, you could go to Holiday World. Holiday World has the Voyage, which is considered one of the top 5 best wooden coasters in the world. It also has Thunderbird, a launch B&M wing coaster that's considered the best of that model. Then there are 2 other great looking wooden coasters with Legend and Raven. This is the fan favorite park of all these 3, so if you can make the extra hour drive up, you definitely should. It also has a really great looking water park, probably one of the best in the US, if not the best. Charlotte, North Carolina. This is a no-brainer, Carowinds. This is only 20-minute drive from Charlotte, and it has Fury 325, which has been voted the best steel coaster for like the past, since it was built. This park also has 3 other great looking coasters with Intimidator, Afterburn, and Copperhead Strike that are all beloved, but Fury is the star of the show. I mean, just look at this monster. Columbus, Ohio. Now you could make the 2-hour drive to Cedar Point, but about 45 minutes closer is Kings Island, which is also considered one of the best parks in the US. Personally, Cedar Point is my favorite park I've ever been to, but Kings Island looks pretty amazing as well. A lot of people even prefer it to Cedar Point because it's less crowded and it even has more charm to it. And if we're talking coasters, this park doesn't slack either. Orion is a smaller version of Fury, Diamondback is a lot of people's favorite B&M Hyper, Banshee is a lot of people's favorite B&M Invert, and Mystic Timbers is a lot of people's favorite GCI. It looks like a great park, and if you choose the almost hour less drive here than to CP, I'm sure you'd have a great time. But if you don't mind taking that 2-hour drive to CP, then definitely go to CP. San Francisco. Six Flags Discovery Kingdom is a bit of a hybrid park. It has great looking coasters like Joker and Medusa, but it also has quite a few animal attractions more focused on marine life. It's about a 40-minute drive from San Francisco, and it looks like a fun time. There's also California's Great America, which might have a slightly better lineup of coasters, but it lacks the animal side of the park entirely. And I'd argue that animal side more than makes up for the slight difference in coaster quality because they really are very similar. Fort Worth, Texas. This is a city I've never heard of before in my life, but it's only a 20-minute drive away from Six Flags Over Texas. This was the original Six Flags park and has a couple of really good looking rides with Mr. Freeze, New Texas Giant, and Shockwave. Not the best park in Texas, but the closest to this city, and it'll still be a good time. Jacksonville, Florida. Islands of Adventure is an incredible universal park in the heart of Orlando. It has 3 great coasters with Hulk, Velocicoaster, and Hagrid's, and a ton of great dark rides like Spider-Man and Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey. Obviously though, if you're in the heart of Orlando, you may choose to go to Disney Park, which in that case go to Magic Kingdom. But if you're more into thrills than theming, Islands is the place to go because it has both and they're both really well done. Austin, Texas. Six Flags Fiesta Texas is an hour and a half away from here, and god damn, just look at this place. I mean, it's literally built in a quarry wall. Where else do you get that? And on top of that, it has incredible looking rides with Iron Rattler, Wonder Woman Golden Lasso Coaster, and Superman Krypton Coaster. This is in the runnings for a lot of people as the best Six Flags park, and it's not hard to see why. Alright, so we made it to the top 10 cities in the US, and we're going to kick it off with a repeat park. Six Flags Discovery Kingdom is an hour and 15 minutes away from San Jose. I already talked about this park with its roller coasters and animals, so I'm just going to skip right to Dallas, Texas. And yet again, we have another repeat park with Six Flags Over Texas. If you remember that this was a 20-minute drive from Fort Worth, it's also a 20-minute drive from Dallas. But yeah, this has some good looking rides, and again, it was the first Six Flags park ever. San Diego. This is a 13-minute drive from SeaWorld San Diego. And go figure, I guess. This is a pretty mediocre looking SeaWorld park. It's getting a pretty cool dive coaster next year, but right now the lineup is, it's a little bit on the weaker side, to be honest. It has animal shows and encounters if that's your thing, but I know a lot of people really don't like SeaWorld for that, so I'm not going to focus on that too much. Honestly, I'm not really going to focus on this park too much because if you're in San Diego and you want to go to a theme park, this is a no-brainer. I mean, it's literally in the name. San Antonio. For this, you can choose one of 2 parks. There's SeaWorld San Antonio and Six Flags Fiesta Texas. I already talked about Fiesta Texas. It definitely has a stronger lineup of roller coasters, and it's built in a quarry wall. But SeaWorld San Antonio has animals, again, if that's what you like, and a mediocre lineup of roller coasters. It's not as bad as San Diego, but it's nowhere near as strong as Fiesta Texas is. But one thing I want to mention is this park, and pretty much all SeaWorld parks have going for them, is the presentation. This is just a nice looking park. There's nothing else really to say about it other than it just looks cool. And SeaWorld parks as a whole are just pleasant to be in, besides the whole animal cruelty. I'll probably make a video on that in the future because it is kind of terrible. Philadelphia. This is only a 54-minute drive from Six Flags Great Adventure. You probably heard about this park, but it has King Ka, the world's tallest coaster, El Toro, one of the world's best coasters, period, when it's functional, and Nitro, a personal favorite of mine. It's also merged with Safari, and overall it's just a great time. It has a really solid collection of coasters and some other flat rides and even dark rides. If the coasters aren't completely your thing, then there are actually some options, but obviously the coasters are the main appeal. Phoenix, Arizona. Yeah, there ain't shit out here unless you want to drive 6 hours to Cali. Houston, Texas. This is wedged 3 hours from Six Flags Over Texas and 3 hours from Six Flags Fiesta Texas, so just pick your poison. Numero 3, Chicago. Six Flags Great America is a 56-minute drive from Chicago, and this is a fantastic looking looking park. They have arguably one of the most well-rounded collections of roller coasters out there, with Raging Bull, Goliath, X-Flight, Max Force, Vertical Velocity, and more. It also looks like one of the nicer Six Flags parks out there in terms of presentation, and is a no-brainer for people in Chicago. Numero dos, Los Angeles. For people looking for roller coasters, you have Six Flags Magic Mountain, the park with the most coasters in the world. I mean, just look at this insanity right here. How could you pass this up? But if you're into anything more than just coasters, then there is Disneyland. Do I really need to talk about this? Like, it's literally Disneyland. Pirates of the Caribbean, Splash Mountain, Space Mountain, Big Thunder Mountain, Rise of the Resistance, yada yada yada. Yeah, you know what Disneyland is. This is an amazing theme park and probably one of, if not the greatest park in the world. But of course, numero uno is New York, the Big Apple. And you got a couple choices here. First, there's Six Flags Great Adventure. I already talked about this. It's a 90-minute drive from New York City. There's also Nickelodeon Universe in the American Dream Mall. This is an indoor amusement park, but it's definitely not going to take the whole day. It's a pretty cool place with 2 good coasters and a couple other pretty meh to like kind of bad coasters, but it's definitely not one of my favorite parks I've been to. However, if you want to pair it with a visit to the rest of the mall, then that makes for a pretty fun time. There's a DreamWorks water park, 2 mini golfing courses, a skiing or snowboarding like hill thing, and an ice skating rink, and obviously like shops like it's a normal mall on top of all this crazy stuff. There's also Hershey Park, which is a 3-hour drive away, which I'm aware is pretty long, but if you want to go at the absolute best coasters out of all these 3 parks, then Hershey is your best bet. It also has Hershey's Chocolate World and a lot of other things to do in the park besides coasters, even more so than Great Adventure. And yeah, that's all 25 of the US's biggest cities, best theme parks. That's a weird sentence. I hope this video helped you out in any way, and I will see you all next time.